Yeah, so these are the numbers that are coming from pretty credible sources across the globe. Yeah, so there is a lot of discussion around whether consulting industry is shrinking, whether there is a demand, etc. But guys, if you really see the demand for consulting talent actually hasn't reduced. Yeah, in fact, it has increased. Okay, so if you compare, so 2023-24 was a definite lull. There's no doubt about it. There's no denying that consulting companies hired a lot lesser than what they hired in 2021, 22, etc. Yeah, but if you see 2025 numbers, uh, we can clearly see that the hiring has increased as compared to 2024 and 2026. We are expecting that it is at least the momentum will continue. I'm not saying it will like completely go through the roof. Yeah, but it will continue for sure. Clearly, what we can see is the mid-size firms. Yeah, are the ones which are leading the surge, right? So if you see MBB, Big Fours, etc., they are hiring. Yeah, more than that, you will see firms which are smaller, right? So I mean, of course, EYP is also part of EY. So technically Big Four, but EYP has been hiring. Oliver Wyman, Elikant. There are so many small firms which have hired so much more than the top ones. And the third thing, again, this is all coming out of data, is actually the hiring has been much more targeted, right? So consulting companies have hired. In fact, last 4 months or 5 months back, McKinsey also started hiring again with a lot of gusto. The only thing is that they are hiring in a very targeted fashion, right? So very specific high margin rule. In the sense, what are high margin rules? The candidates who can hit the ground running, right? And with tight timelines. In the sense, not going for a campus and building the bench, but hiring just in time when they need, right? So that kind of hiring is happening. So again, in a nutshell, if you are worried whether the demand is decreasing, no, the demand is not decreasing. Demand is there for sure. Yeah, but the fact of the matter is that the client landscape itself is changing. That the client's demand is changing. And consulting, of course, is a service industry, right? I mean, as the clients have changed over the last whatever 100 years of consulting existence, consulting companies have to, right, respond to that. And even this time around, they have really responded. There's no doubt about it. So, for example, now globally, as we know, there is, I mean, the global market is not doing that great. In some countries, there is like almost like a recession. There are some countries or regions literally who are at plateau, right? So of course there is a lot of optimization, cost cutting, and in the companies. And as a result of that, of course, what they have is a lesser budget now for consulting projects. Yeah, and of course, if we are getting paid less, then we are talking about doing the work in a less time, quicker turnaround, right? And as a result, we need people who are more specialist, right? A use of tech, AI has increased. Offshore consulting as a trend is like really growing. A lot of companies now are creating offshore centers in India, that they are trying to, I mean, two things. One is clients are also now kind of trying to move some of their operations to offshore location. At the same time, consulting companies are also doing part of the project from offshore or low cost locations, right? Which are the clear responses. Second is there's a lot of uncertainty, guys, currently, right? So if you see, be it some of the wars that are happening, right? Some of the governments, yeah, in major countries that have been elected, right? And be it a lot of different factors, right? Companies, at least what we see, and we were discussing about it in our last McKinsey alumni webinar, that it's not that companies don't have money, yeah, but they are sitting on it because they are not very sure whether they should invest that money for a strategic initiative. Yeah, and generally, that when that happens, of course, the consulting companies, revenue or business would go down, right? Because if once you decide to go on a strategic initiative, be it M&A, be it market entry, be it new product, yeah, then only you will hire the consulting company, right? So what has happened is there's a lot of uncertainty, and as a result of that, companies are also taking quite ad hoc decisions. As a result of that, of course, then consulting company also need to be much more agile, yeah. So faster ramp up, yeah, ramp downs are needed, yeah. And as a result of that, then they are hesitant to build a bench, right? So in good years, what happened? Companies build a huge bench. Yeah, so okay, I'll hire 100 people from ISB or whatever, 150 in, I mean, there are, I think 2023, 198 candidates were hired, I guess, from INSEAD, right? So these people get hired, they join in a month. It's not that they get they get like deployed the next day. But still, companies can afford to have that bench when the things are good. But now that's not the case. Rather than that, they would say, okay, lesser percentage of my pipeline I will hire through campus, but more I will hire throughout the year. Okay, so that is happening. Companies are now pushing consulting firms for more results, right? And also a lot of times they are going to revenue sharing kind of a model or outcome based payment model, right? So you just don't tell me that you can improve your operations by whatever 10%. If 10% is 50 million, then please help me get that 50 million cost cutting, right? Of course, again, as a result of that, there is pressure on consulting firms, or I wouldn't say pressure, but that needs to happen. And as a result, again, a longer tail projects companies are consulting firms are accepting niche expertise driven projects. See, one of the reason, guys, the smaller consulting companies are growing so amazingly well, the mid size and small size, is also because the nature of project, right, is now changing to the niche expertise and the generalist project, right, where the pure problem structuring, irrespective of the domain knowledge, is needed. The proportion of that, right, is decreasing. Yeah, and as a result, that the type of projects are also changing. So all this is basically, so this is like, if there's one slide that probably is a takeaway for all these things, right, guys, then this is the slide. Okay, if some of you who have already started preparing might know, this is called issue tree. I'll not get into that, but I have purposely created an issue tree for you to see growth trends and its implication in one slide, so that if you want, you can take photo of it at the end of the discussion. It's still not populated, and it will remain with you. Yeah. So I'll quickly tell you about the growth areas, right? So areas where you should seriously think about how you can position yourself. Okay. Starting off with a geography cut. Yeah, I think there's no surprise over here. We all know that US and Europe is not doing that great. Yeah, the markets which are hiring, yeah, are basically what the fastest growing market, no doubt about it, or the market that is hiring the most is the Middle Eastern market, and then the emerging Asias. So basically, we are talking about Thailand, we are talking about Malaysia, we are talking about Indonesia, right? Of course, India is also growing, no doubt about it, but move faster than India. I would say offices like KL, Jakarta, Bangkok, those offices are hiring at much more pace, I would say. Then industries as well. We have clearly seen that people from some of these industries, or people who align themselves to these industries, their CVs are getting considered much in a stronger way, or niche companies in this particular domain are doing much better than the others, right? One is healthcare, right? Especially the digital health kind of experience if you have, yeah, or the payer side, which is insurance side, yeah. Infra projects, right? So smart city, the government related. So one of the area which is growing in consulting is the government project or public sector projects. Yeah, it's across the globe, but of course it is heavily dominated by huge projects that are getting run in the Middle East, as the 2030 vision of Saudi Arabia, 2030 vision of Qatar. All these projects are getting executed. Yeah, and across the globe, if you see, a lot of governments are hiring consultants. And third, of course, is our favorite energy, right? So renewable energy, ESG, those topics are growing in consulting than the other some of the other ones. Yeah. If I talk about functions, so again, industry means industries, basically the sectors. Yeah, functions are basically horizontals, as we say, right? So a lot of consulting companies, guys, as you know, have a metric structure, right? So we have verticals: telecom, healthcare, energy, like that, and then we have horizontal, which are functions: strategy, marketing and sales, ops, digital, org, etc. Yeah. So from a function perspective, right, where we see the growth already, and of course continuing in 2026 is of course AI and digital transformation, operational excellence, org and change management, etc. Yeah. Now, guys, when you're thinking, I mean, at least over here, till if I just very quickly take a pause on this particular chart here, right? How does this matter to you, right? It matters to you in multiple ways. One is while you are doing your case practice, etc., what you need to think about is probably there's a very high probability that cases can come from this particular kind of industry or function or geography, because that is where a lot of work is happening. Secondly, as you are drafting your CV, right? So I just give you a simple example. For 2, 3, 4, let's say even 4, 5 years back, If I need to optimize the CV, and if in a particular job I have space only to write 3 bullets, right? Then I used to prefer 3 strategy work bullet, right? If I'm applying to consulting firm, right? But now I think the right balance or strategy, operations, etc., needs to be achieved, because consulting companies are not just looking for a strategic thinker, but a doer as well, right? Who will get things done. So your 2026 preparation of CV, cover letter, your case cracking, yeah, your pitch. So when I ask you why should we hire you, right, as a fit question, right? Why consulting, right? Or an instance of you doing something, right? All your answers should kind of tweaked, right? To tweak in the sense, I'm not saying you should lie, but you should surface some of these things much more, because these are the things that are getting hired, right? Uh, I think we spoke about it, but again, I'll quickly cover it. So boutique firms, of course, are growing the fastest, no doubt about it. Internal strategy firm. Now, internal strategy company, right, or teams, yeah. Again, the reason being multifold, right? So as you need more domain specific people, right? I mean, the most generalist being, let's say, for example, for the hypothetical example, though it's not completely true, let's say full generalist people like McKinsey, BCG, Bain, right? But the problem is a little bit more domain specific. Then you will look for domain expert. For example, if it is, let's say, pricing problem, then you will say, let me get Simon Kucher. Yeah. If there is, let's say, ops issue, then you would say, okay, let me go for Kearney, right? Like that, so on and so forth. If it is even more deeper and operationally aligned, right, then you might say, why not me, kind of talk to people who are within my own firm itself, right? So over the time, what people have realized that why don't we also have our own internal strategy teams which are stronger, right? So they can also solve a little bit different type of a problem, right? And the frequency at which we have to go to the external consulting companies will reduce, which will also save the cost, because as we all know, when a consultant is hired versus if the problem was solved internally, the cost is literally sometimes 4 to 6 fold. Yeah. So that's why a lot of internal strategy teams are also getting fatter. So be it chief of staff role, be it corporate strategy role, the business strategy roles, right? You would have seen that they are increasing in numbers, right? And of course, it's not that MBB and Big Fours are not hiring, but as we discussed, that is the hiring is quite selective. Okay. Now, as a result of this market dynamics, yeah, let's very quickly see what's happening on the hiring trends. Yeah, I think we touched upon a few. So definitely on-campus hiring is declining. Yeah, I mean I have some numbers from last the entire year from INSEAD, Harvard, etc. Yeah, but I'll probably share it afterwards. I don't want to put it here till the time they put it in their own publications. But campus hiring has declined for sure. There's no doubt about it, right? But that again, as I said, that because off-campus share is increasing. The appreciation of the industry depth. Yeah. So me saying that I would like to have a high IQ generalist, right? Gone are those days. Now I would say, okay, I like that business sense of the person. I'm happy that apart from being a good problem solver, this person also has a spike in 1 or 2 industries. Yeah, that is getting appreciated. Yeah, increasing practice specific hiring, same. I think increasing niche kind of a profile we are talking about. One of the big trend, guys, is the on contract or freelance model, right? So be it ex consultant or be it people with a significant amount of experience in their own industry. A lot of now there are so many platforms which are actually facilitators for consulting projects, and the through them, be it consulting companies, sometimes being directly client, they are hiring on contract people. Yeah, so on contract consulting or freelance consulting is a huge trend currently. Okay, we know the interview process, interview application screening, which is CV and cover letter. Your profile gets screened, then we get into assessments. Most of these companies now introduced assessments, be it McKinsey Sol, be it BCG's Casey, all Bain, SOA. So those assessments are done, and then we have interviews, right? So this is the process. Now the implication on the process is also that, given that the hiring is selective, the scrutiny guys have always increased. We all have grown up hearing about 1 is to 100, right? So out of 100 people that apply to consulting firm, one gets hired, right? Probably now that needs to be revised. Now it is even lesser because the scrutiny has increased a lot, no doubt about it, right? Assessment, as I said, people are using a lot. Yeah. In interview, selection logic versus rejection logic. Now this one probably need a little bit of explanation. What I mean by that is that now it's not enough to tick all the boxes. Good education, the structure is good, the math is good, Yeah, he read the chart very well. His fit answers were quite strong. That is kind of a logic which is, a rejection logic, in the sense of, I if I get all the ticks, then I'm sure I'll hire this person. Now the mindset is different, and now because we don't need a little bit lesser people, selective people, it's about selection mindset. Means all those tick marks are hygiene, but if I am I really liking this person? Do I see this person in my team? Yeah. So I'll only hire if I really feel that person is good. Yeah. Which is a completely different mindset. Yeah. Than a kind of a mass hiring mindset that we had till now, right? That okay, all the tick in the box means selection. Now it's not all the tick in the box only. Yeah. It's also there's so much more.